How is everybody doing? Anybody want to share how things are going? So Connie was just asking about fiber amounts in carbohydrates. And she was reflecting on that she was not getting enough fiber sometimes. Are you guys ready for the presentation? Okay, awesome. Let's do it. Here we go. So welcome to the third workshop, all about non-starchy vegetables. I'm your friendly neighborhood dietitian and chef. Thanks for coming. Okay, so non-starchy vegetables contain a variety of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Their protective effects, their phytonutrients are protective effects, reduce the risk of chronic disease, which is super helpful, and a good source of dietary fiber, which was what we were just talking about. They're low in calories, so you can eat a lot of them, and they add flavor, crunch, and sweetness to our meals. So the balanced plate, the first workshop, we talked about proteins. The second workshop last week, we talked about carbohydrates with fiber and energy. And then today we're talking about non-starchy vegetables. And ideally, if you had 3 meals a day, then this is what your plate would look like. But some of you are eating like 4 or 5 or maybe 6 smaller meals per day. So basically using this as a template would be highly recommended. So thinking about how to break down your health goals in a doable way, I encourage you to use a SMART goals approach. In the first workshop, you have in your email today a SMART goals strategy sheet to write down a specific goal, very specific. You don't want it's like something that's broad is like, I want to be healthy, I want to eat healthy, but you want to narrow down what that means for you. So something very specific, something measurable, so you can reflect on how things are going, achievable, it's broken down in like baby steps so that you'll actually follow through with it, because if you make it more complicated, we're not going to follow through. And that it's relevant, it's what you want to do, it's important to you to take action on it. And then it's time bound. That's why scheduling in, working on your meal planning program is so important, in like 10 to 15 minutes a week, and then doing a little bit of cooking and then the shopping to break it down into smaller steps. So a specific SMART goal I recommend for us today is scheduling 10 minutes today to write in your non-starchy vegetable kitchen inventory worksheet. And there might be something else you're working on too, so you could write that down for yourself. So non-starchy vegetables include a lot of different categories of food. So I broke them down into 6. So leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, roasting vegetables, onions and garlic, mushrooms, and then I have another category of vegetables. So eating the rainbow a day could keep the doctor away, so to speak. So it's a fun way to make your plate or snack or meal look interesting and taste interesting as well. So eating the rainbow. The rainbow contains phytochemicals or plant chemicals that function to protect our health through antioxidants and anti-inflammatory agents. So this is a huge benefit to our health. So antioxidants literally pick up the free radicals in our blood, and free radicals are a waste product from our biological processes. And then anti-inflammatory agents are really helpful to help us fight against the pro-inflammatory reactions that are in our body. And phytochemicals help reduce the risk of cancer, improve our immune system, and protect our cells from damage, as well as reducing the risk for cardiovascular disease. So some examples of how what rainbow looks like in terms of the vegetables. So the orange and red category includes carrots, which are one of my favorite vegetables because they add sweetness. Radishes, there's red radishes and red beets. For the purple and blue category, there's eggplant and red cabbage. We call it red cabbage, but it's really purple. And there's also purple carrots, you've probably seen in the store. For the category of white, there's cauliflower and garlic. And sometimes, you know, my patients will say, I'm avoiding all white foods. And I say, are you avoiding cauliflower? And they usually say no. So for the category of yellow bell pepper or summer squash or chilies. For the black and brown category, there's mushrooms, and then there's a radish called Spanish radish, which is black on the outside. So that's kind of fun. It's black on the outside and white on the inside. It'll actually be in season soon. And then for green, there's spinach, kale, broccoli, snap peas, asparagus. So for the category of green leafy vegetables, there's just so many to choose from. And it's good to think about how to have variety of foods. So collard greens, dandelion greens are very bitter. So if you don't like bitter foods, you're probably not going to like dandelion greens. Mustard greens, rainbow chard or regular white chard or yellow chard. Beet greens are kind of fun to have beets with their greens. Romaine lettuce, turnip greens, watercress. Watercress is delicious to have in a soup or salad. Regular old spinach, fresh or frozen. Arugula, kale, there's baby kale and adult kale. Endive, which is a chicory. And then bok choy, there's baby bok choy, and then there's adult bok choy. Lots of different types of bok choy. And cabbage, there's a lot of different types there. There's even a specific cabbage to make sauerkraut. And then chicory and lettuces, just to cover all the other stuff that I haven't shared here already. So cruciferous vegetables, there's a lot. So broccoli is basically our poster vegetable for vegetables in general. So I had to share that. Collard greens, Brussels sprouts are wonderful roasted or sauteed with pumpkin pie spice or Chinese 5-spice. Cauliflower, cabbages, bok choy. Radishes are great, not just in salads raw, but also roasted. Rutabaga is another root vegetable. Arugula is a nice green to add to any meal. And then kale and kohlrabi. Kohlrabi is kind of cool, but you need to cut away, discard the outside and then eat the inside. The outside is very fibrous. You might be able to eat some of it, but kohlrabi is great crunchy, raw, or in a soup. It has the texture of broccoli stem, if you haven't had it before. Roasted vegetables include, like, spaghetti squash is actually a non-starchy vegetable, which is a little bit confusing because it's a winter squash. Summer squash is a great vegetable to roast. Cabbages, you could just cut a whole cabbage into wedges and then roast it on a sheet pan. And there you have a delicious vegetable ready to go. Red onion or any onions are great to roast. Sweet or spicy bell peppers, parsnips, eggplants, fennel, carrots. Carrots and fennel roasted together are quite delicious. And then beets, there's, yellow beets or golden beets, there's pink beets, and then red beets. There's also white beets. So radishes, there's a lot of different radishes out there to try. You do want the radishes to be very firm to touch. Sometimes they're kind of squishy, and they might be more spongy if they're squishy. And then tomatoes are great to roast. And then turnips. Roasting turnips with parsnips and radishes are really good together. So for onions and garlic, there's many more than are listed here, but onions could include Spanish yellow onions, white onions, or sweet Walla onions, garlic, fresh garlic, which comes out in the spring, or aged garlic, which is what we usually know of in the grocery, like the regular garlic bulbs. And certainly buy fresh garlic if it's been peeled, if that saves you time. And then there's dried chives or fresh chives, leeks, scallions or green onions, and shallots. These are how to build flavor in your meals. Mushrooms, there's many edible mushrooms. You definitely don't want to eat mushrooms that are not edible. And we're coming up on hardcore wild mushroom season. So keep an eye out for fancy mushrooms like chanterelles or morels out there. But just to list a few here. So white button mushrooms are fun to have in salads or add to soups, or some people are adding mushrooms to like turkey burger meat to make a mushroomy burger to reduce the animal protein in the meal. Portobello mushrooms are fun. Chanterelles, as mentioned, those are delicious and usually a little bit pricey, but they can be worth it. Lion's mane, porcini mushrooms, you could find them dried or as a powder or fresh. Crimini mushrooms taste the same as portobellos. Shiitakes are very, very earthy. Oyster mushrooms, enoki mushrooms could be good on salads. Morels, reishi, and maitake mushrooms. And I like to actually use ground or dried mushroom powder, like shiitake mushroom powder, to add to soups, to add that earthy body when I don't want to use tomato. So the other category of vegetables includes bamboo shoots and water chestnuts. And then the next three vegetables are high in soluble fiber. So these could be great for blood sugar management. So Nepalese cactus leaves, bitter melon, and okra. And some of you already have these in your diet because you grew up eating them, and some of us didn't grow up eating any of them. And so they're kind of fun to experiment with. And then there's celery, which is really fun to have for a snack or add flavor to soups and stews. Sprouts, there's lots of different types of sprouts, broccoli sprouts. There's even corn sprouts and onion sprouts. And you can grow your own sprouts. Eggplant, chicories are actually great roasted. Jicama is a great crunchy snack to have with like a chili lime seasoning. Zucchini, asparagus, artichokes, and cucumbers. And right now we're in between seasons. So yesterday when I went to the grocery store, I saw there was like asparagus and eggplant and winter squash. And so we have these like the summer foods, vegetables and fruits are kind of ending, and then the winter vegetables and fruits are coming in. So I like the transition time because we get a variety of both seasons. Ready for the next slide, Bailey? So for flavorings, herbs, and spices, you can use whole spices like fennel seed as the seed, or you could use ground spices or fresh herbs and spices. Sometimes it's better to go with the dried form, the powdered form, because it might be less expensive, and sometimes it might be less expensive to get the fresh form, depending on where you're shopping. and its availability in the season. Sometimes fresh ginger is less expensive than dried ginger. So some examples here. So fresh and dried thyme is one of my favorites for an herb to use in soup specifically. And cumin, I use a lot of ground cumin, occasionally cumin seed. Nutmeg is great to use. I usually always use whole nutmeg and then just grate it in whatever I'm making, like a spinach and potato soup with nutmeg. Spinach and nutmeg go well together. Cloves. Then there's basil, fresh or dried. I actually stayed away from using dried basil for decades. And then I saw it at Trader Joe's and I was like, I'm gonna see if the basil tastes good or anything. Once I realized that basil does add some flavor, it just doesn't taste like basil. So I think of it more as, I use dried basil more like dried parsley. So that's kind of, it's helpful to know that dried basil can be helpful. Just don't treat it like basil.
Right.
And then there's mint. You can make fresh tea from fresh mint tea from mint, or sage. Fresh or dried sage is great to make into a tea, like a hot tea or a cold tea, like iced tea. Fresh dill is delicious and amazing. Rosemary, marjoram, oregano. Turmeric, we can buy fresh turmeric nowadays, but just know that turmeric is very, very strongly flavored. So you want to be mindful and only use a little bit. And if you use turmeric, you want to always add black pepper because it helps us absorb the active ingredient in turmeric. Without the black pepper, we're not going to get its health benefits, meaning that using turmeric would only make your food yellow and you would not get the health benefits. Mm. So cinnamon is pretty fun to add to any foods to make it add a little bit of sweetness. I definitely add cinnamon when I make a curry. There's dried and freshly prepared horseradish. And then saffron is usually kind of expensive, but it can be fun to make something that has saffron in it. Paprika, specifically Turkish or Hungarian paprika, is fun to use, not just for egg salad or deviled eggs. And then there's fresh or dried ginger, lemon juice, and lime juice. You guys all know by now, I think all of you know that I love lime juice. And I don't use the word love very often related to food, but lime juice is something I definitely enjoy and love. Citrus zest in general, you could add like grapefruit zest to a salad dressing to add that flavor, which is really fun. And then vinegars, there's so many different types of vinegars out there, like sherry vinegar, cider vinegar, red wine vinegar, champagne vinegar, rice wine vinegar. And then there's chilies, dried chilies, ground chilies, whole chilies, fresh. And then there's spice blends. There's so many different spice blends. One of my favorites is za'atar spice, which is dried oregano, dried thyme, and sesame seeds, just to name a lot. Okay, so some recipes to consider. So I just made this carrot ginger soup last weekend and stocked up my freezer with carrot ginger soup with chickpeas, lamb sausage, and then some kale. And then sometimes, like this picture shows, I freeze it just carrot ginger soup, and then I can add a protein and a vegetable, and then a carbohydrate. Maybe sometimes my protein is like chickpeas or black beans. I really like what it looks like, where it's like orange soup with black beans and then kale. Orange and black is kind of fun for Halloween or every day. And then my Mexican inspired coleslaw is a fun way to get a lot of colors in. So it usually has red cabbage, shredded carrot, cilantro, red bell pepper sometimes if it's available. And then I have cider vinaigrette with lime juice and salt, pepper, and sometimes I add cumin, and that's delish. So your homework this week. So continue creating your meal planning system. So schedule in 10 minutes this week to fill out your kitchen inventory of non-starchy vegetables that you like, as well as vegetables that you want to try, which is your grocery shopping list. And then your meal planning worksheet to help yourself stay organized, as well as there's a rainbow evaluation for you to reflect on how you do with eating the rainbow and what areas you could focus on. One thing I wanted to make sure that you know is I'm not expecting, one of the meal planning sheets that you have says like if you wanted to, you could include your meals that you're going to have on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. But actually, I think it's more efficient to write a list of meals that you enjoy and your grocery list and just keep that cycle of building instead of identifying what you're going to eat on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I offer those sheets for people that want to take their organization to that level. So I'm not expecting you to use all of the resources, but I offer a variety of resources to try to meet the needs of everybody. So this is what the kitchen inventory for non-starchy vegetables looks like. And then these are examples of the kitchen inventory sheets so that you can fill out the foods that you enjoy and you want to add into to create your inventory and grocery shopping list. And then this is what the rainbow evaluation looks like. And you got a resource with portion guides for different types of foods. So you can use your hand because you're always attached to your hand. So you can use that as a portion guide. And then say if you're a tennis player or you're a card player, you could use a tennis ball or a deck of cards to have portion sizes. This is one of my favorite meal planning strategy sheets. Not only do I use it for meal planning, but I also use it for other random projects I'm planning and focusing on. And so it's a multi-purpose sheet. So you could use this for when you're going to do your 10 to 15 minutes of organization. When are you doing your grocery shopping? When are you doing some cooking? And, you know, every now and again, you spend like 10 minutes, like just going through getting rid of stuff, or as some folks have mentioned the previous classes, that, you know, actually creating the list of what you have on hand, getting rid of stuff in like 10 minutes at a time. So if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'm very close to 500 subscribers now. I think I need 6 more subscribers. I think most of you here are already subscribed. And please join my private Facebook group so you can share what you've been working on and how this program has helped you. In the email you got today includes the information to join Facebook. And I always have different types of inspiration on Instagram besides YouTube. And here we are. The next step is questions and discussion, which is my favorite part, and I think yours too. So thank you for listening to this presentation. Next week is the last workshop for this 4-workshop series entitled Bring It All Together. So bringing all these concepts together, the balanced meal and healthy fats. And then after that, many of you are already planning on attending the meal planning session November 20th. So please bring or email me. The best way to contact me is to email me to ask me a question. Email me your holiday recipe that you want to share during the November 20th workshop. And then I'll see most of you guys again December 10th or 11th. Choose one of those days, not both of those days, for the meal planning sessions for the rest of this year. So let's get to this fun discussion. Hey, Lisa, thanks for joining us. What's your question, Sagani?
Well, I had several. One was when you were talking about the different color beets, do they all taste the same?
No, actually, they taste quite different. So yellow beets taste very minerally.
Mm-hmm.
So like they taste like you're eating minerals. So if you don't like them,
Which ones taste like minerals?
yellow.
Oh, the yellow ones. Okay.
Yeah. So if I were you, if I would, I know you shop at Rainbow. So if you were to see like the smallest bunch of yellow beets,
Mhm.
then you get those and roast them. Or I think they might even have the yellow beets frozen, because you can, if you don't like them, then you can hide them in
Right.
foods.
Right.
Have a small amount at a time, but they can be really it can be really helpful to add some kind of sweetness with them, or vinegar.
Okay.
So
My
have
other,
like red and yellow beets together.
okay. My other question is, for you were talking about the different kinds of sprouts and mushrooms. Do all mushrooms have the same nutritional balance? So is it like a mushroom is a way and all of them are the same basically?
Uh,
Or
Basically, yes, but they're not exact. Some of them have more of, folate, and others have more of something else. So I would go with, it sounds like you really want to have foods that have the most nutrition for your bite. And the first approach is going with ones that you actually like, and then experimenting to see which ones which other varieties you like as well, while considering the cost, because some mushrooms are really expensive.
yeah, that wasn't the problem because actually I've never met a mushroom I didn't like. So that's why I was wondering if it mattered because I've tried pretty much many of those and I've never been disappointed. So I was just wondering if there was a difference.
Yeah, there is, but I don't think it's
But I
enough
don't
to
have to worry
actually
about it.
consider. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the same with sprouts?
It is the same with sprouts. Just try different ones. Basically the like one strategy to think about is like which has the most fiber. And if you have the beans attached to the sprout, then
Mm-hmm.
you're getting more nutrition, right? Because the bean that was sprouted has protein and fiber there.
Right.
But if you get the sprouts, then yeah.
Okay. One last question.
Sure.
Um, you know how Rainbow, they have smoked paprika, and I love that. Not just regular, but the smoke. Is the smoke a problem or it doesn't matter? If I'm seeing like a spice or something and I like it because it's smoked, is there any negative consequences to liking smoked stuff?
No, I wouldn't recommend eating. You know how sometimes we go and we're like eager beaver and we're like, oh, I like the smoked turkey and I like the smoked this and I like the smoked that and then I like the smoked salmon or whatever.
Mhm.
Just be aware if you ever overdo it, because there is such thing as too much of the same stuff, or too much of a good thing.
Oh no, what I've been doing is like if the recipe calls for paprika, I use the smoked paprika. So it's not like I go, well, I just want to use smoked paprika for salt or anything like that. It's just that I wanted to be able to see if it was okay to substitute, because I always get different opinions on smoking things. And I just wondered about that when it came to spices.
Yeah, I think the best approach is like sometimes we can overdo it with the smoked stuff, like the smoked oysters, the smoked salmon, the smoked turkey, or whatever. So just kind of keeping an eye on that. But yeah, there's smoked paprika, there's spicy paprika, and there's sweet paprika. I'm a big fan. I actually have all three because I'm in the position where I get to experiment with all this stuff. And so it's just kind of fun to try all three. There's this store in my neighborhood called the Spanish Table, and they have a variety of spices, specifically paprika.
Okay, cool. Well,
Yeah.
that was all my questions. Thank you.
Cool. I'm sure you'll have more too. So what else you guys got going on? Any thoughts, questions, statements?
Alicia, do you have any opinions about the benefits of certain types of vinegars, particularly any of them that keep active cultures in them, like mothers?
Keeping vinegars live?
Yeah, such as the active vinegars that exist for apple cider, for example.
How to keep them live?
No, the benefits of them versus those that cook them out or distill them out.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Basically what Chris is asking is there's some vinegars that have a mother in them because they're fermented. The vinegar has been fermented. It was wine or juice, something sugar containing, and then it was fermented into vinegar. And so like Bragg's cider vinegar has the mother in there. And so it's this slimy fermented thing that has probiotics in it, which means healthy bacteria. So definitely I would recommend using a vinegar that has the mother in it. Unfiltered is one of the words that you might look for on a vinegar bottle versus having the vinegar filtered. And then if you might want to shake it when you use it so you get some of that good stuff when you use it, because and then you might not end up using the mother in the bottom is kind of slimy. If you would avoid that, like there's two strategies. You can just keep pouring out of it and the slimy fermented part remains in the bottom, or you like mix it before you use it so you're getting some of those probiotics. So I definitely recommend getting unfiltered vinegars when you can, if it's available. Some vinegars it might not be available. Like I don't think sherry vinegar has that unless there might be like one sherry vinegar brand that has the mother in it.
I don't see that too commonly, except in just apple cider with Bragg's, and it's real popular. People that are into the use of apple cider vinegars,
Right.
and it's got a great dimension to it. I think apple cider does versus other ones. It gives you some complexity without all the strength of something like a balsamic, for example, which can be a little overwhelming or acidic to some people.
Right, exactly. It's true. Everybody's different. Some people don't. I like a higher proportion of vinegar to olive oil personally for taste, but not everybody likes that. That's why you have to talk to your friends about how you like your dressing. Do you like it strong or do you like it weak? I'm just kidding. It's just less vinegar, not weak. Cool, good question. What's going on? Any other thoughts or any thoughts on how to add vegetables without making it seem like you're having a lot of vegetables? Sneaking the vegetables in.
I think the best advantage I've had since using your program was using fresh vegetables as almost, particularly the green leafy ones, as a bed for other items, particularly proteins or other types of stews, for lack of a better term, that I would make. So for example, when I was trying your quiche, for example, which is already chock full of vegetables. Sorry, yes, frittata, because the quiche is crusty. Frittata, exactly. It was great to serve it on a bit of fresh baby kale, so that we got a really boost of green leafy veg with all that protein and other veg.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I like plating a meal on top of a bed of greens, no matter if it's hot or cold. And having, sometimes the greens will kind of cook a little bit and sometimes they don't. So it's not quite a salad. It's not quite cooked greens. It's just an easy way to add greens without extra work.
Yeah, and also particularly good if you can hit it with some fresh, for things, hitting it with some fresh lime juice because it acts almost, you're talking about how some dressings can be really strong. If you hit with a fresh citrus, like an orange juice or a lime juice, it's not as thick and it's not sharp. It doesn't kill the flavor of everything else on the plate.
Absolutely. Citrus and vinegar together make a delicious dressing with some herbs like chives or parsley.
Yeah, my personal favorite is like, I like lemon or lime juice to go on spinach because I don't like the bitter flavor of spinach when it's raw. But if I add, what I do is with the red onion, a little bit of salt, and the lime juice, it cuts that bitter flavor that I don't like that sits with spinach. That's how I manage to get spinach down when it's raw. Otherwise, because like when you talk about a bed of lettuce, like I use arugula because it isn't as bitter as spinach. But I
And
don't,
spicy.
yeah, it's spicy. And mustard greens. I like mustard greens because I'm irritated that mustard greens aren't around all year because I could always do mustard greens. But you know what I grew up doing is like, you know how you said dandelion greens are bitter? We used to cook our collards, our mustard, and the dandelion all together. So I never even knew it was bitter because I've never cooked it by itself. It's always been with my mustard and collard greens.
That's a good move to have variety because if you had, some people are, diehard dandelion green supporters because they're like, they know dandelion greens are known for liver detoxification within some crowds. And, some people are juicing dandelion greens and just taking the shot, and it's just very bitter. It's not for all people, but if there was like, you mix the collard greens and the mustards together, and then it's not so empowering, and that's a great strategy.
Yeah.
Also adding caramelized onions to the bitter. So one of the main things is if you're like, oh, I don't like this, it's bitter, adding sweetness to the bitter thing helps balance out those flavors. So like caramelized onions are sweet, red bell pepper or any kind of sweet bell peppers are sweet, carrots are sweet. So roasted carrots could be great. Parsnips are sweet. And I'm just,
On
so
that
some
note,
ideas.
let's talk about bitter melon because my friend who introduced me to bitter melon, she's Chinese, so she cooked it the Chinese way, and it was okay when she made it, but as soon as I made it, it went all terribly wrong. So I thought it was just too bitter, but bitter melon is good for me as a diabetic. I wish I did like it. How would you make it where it wasn't so bitter your way?
I mean, I would saute it or roast it with other vegetables. And, I don't know if you're still friends with that friend, but
Oh yeah, I am.
okay, good. So you could, ask for advice because you already had a positive, sometimes it's like when we're other people and did it for us, then we're like, oh, this is good. But then building up the confidence for you to do it yourself, it's huge. And so you've had a successful experience eating it, which is awesome, right? Because that's the most important thing.
But most of the time, yeah, I fail miserably when I try to make it myself. This is why I get pissed at my friends and go, all you have to do is, this is what I hate to hear from cooks. People who know how to cook always say, all you have to do is, and then you do that. You go, oh, did you forget to do this part? I thought that was obvious. No, it's not obvious. It was never obvious.
Right.
So I have to deal with that. So yes, I know I'm going to have to go back to Phyllis and have that conversation again. So
exactly. So there's always the first time, like the hardest thing to do is getting started, right? And so like usually when you're good at doing something and you eat it and you like it and it tastes good and you're like that, oh, all you have to do is, right? And if we had $1 for every time somebody said that, we'd be in a different situation. But so like if you've made it 100 times and it's easy, you're not even thinking about it, right?
Right.
And so if I were you, I would cook the bitter melon, like cut it in very small pieces, get the smallest one you could find. And then, if they don't have the smallest one in the store, wait until there's the smallest one. So it's like low risk. and then cut it in small pieces and cook it, saute it with like your favorite mushrooms and like a lot of other vegetables that are guaranteed, and then some bitter melon.
Right. Kind of like adding like the carrots and all other and caramelized, and so taking all of these sweet things and just kind of adding the bitter melon to it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's low risk. And it's just like your dandelion, collard green, and mustard green situation, where with a combination of these things, you can have a successful, delicious experience. But if you ate just one, maybe not so great.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So so we don't have to be the people that just drink the shot of dandelion juice or eat the bitter,
No, that
100% bitter melon. We can
I've
have
already
variety.
had the war of kale. You're never gonna make me like kale. Stop trying. I mean, so many people try to make. I don't care. I don't like kale. Never going to. Right up there with okra. Not happening. So, but yeah, I have like people. What, it'll look good. It'll no. So I understand that there are people who get all gung ho about one particular vegetable, and it seems to go like in phases over the years. Now it's all about kale. It's like no. We're going back to greens. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So what's going on? What do you think, Jan and Kathy, Rita, Sharon?
Well, I always want to find out new things on how to make vegetables. That's always my thing. So, and for me, for greens, I've always mixed them up. That's how we cook greens with onions. Yeah, I usually use onion, celery, and bell pepper, and saute that first, and then add on the greens, and it's just really good. And then put them away in portions in the freezer, and then just get them out.
Nice. Have you ever added carrots to that mix?
No, never have. I've been just doing the same thing for years.
Try parsnips or carrots. I know Robert will like any of the vegetables.
Yeah, what I did for him, well, he would like that. It's a little bit too sour or, tart for me, but he would like it. Parsley. Oh,
parsnips.
Yeah, he would like that.
Okay, maybe don't like the sweetness of parsnips.
I guess I've never tasted them, but they sound like I wouldn't like them. So it's different.
But
I know, never tasted them, but it sounds like I wouldn't like them.
They're like a white carrot. They're sweet like a carrot.
Oh,
they don't look very good.
Taste like carrots. They're just white. I cannot tell the difference between a carrot and a parsnip.
They don't look like
not the
parsnips are definitely not working for it. You know what I mean? They're not like, hey, I'm delicious. Like tomatoes and bell peppers are kind of working for it because they're like red and they're voluptuous. But parsnips are like, I'm a white root and I look kind of dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got mixed up about that too because I'd had turnips and that turnips.
That's what I was thinking of. Turnip green.
So that's what it is. No, it ain't the turnips. It's parsnips different, but it looks just like that's why you think that. But no, it tastes just like a carrot.
Okay.
See, we're from the same.
I
can tell.
Yes.
How many of you same tribe right here?
How many of you think that Jan would like parsnips?
Yes, you like them. If you like carrots, you'll like parsnips.
And I do like carrots. I like carrots by themselves.
Some of you guys weren't confident. So that's the thing. If you looked at celery root, who's had celery root here? Celery root's delicious, but if you were to look at it, you'd be like, no way. Like it's dirty. It looks like it's a friend with a gopher, and yeah. But you gotta cut off everything to get to the white flesh, and it's delicious. If you like celery, you like celery root.
I do.
Cool. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of those giant rutabagas, but I'll roast them. But it's like having things individually. And also like sometimes we've had an experience with an ingredient, like a kale, like an older kale leaf. is tough and more bitter. And so if that was like the first and sixth and 10th attempt to having kale, then maybe kale's not your friend. But if like baby kale or more tender kale, but or like in a soup where it's like hidden in some way, then it could be approachable. I'm not saying it will be your favorite food or anything. I'm not trying to change you, Sakani, but there could be, you know, a way, a cooking method, or a combination of foods that are like, oh, I kind of like this. You know, if you go to a restaurant and you have something, you're like, oh, the restaurant made it good, so I like it. But some people say like, oh, I like it when the restaurant makes it, but when I make it, it's not that great. So it's the skills to be able to do that. Because it takes, you know, it's like, it's all in the wrist, right?
What did you call that white thing that you said that that tastes like carrots, so I can try it? What is it called again? Parsley?
Parsnips,
Okay.
Parsnip, a
Okay.
parsnip, yeah.
Okay.
So it's whitish, maybe dirty white. Once you peel you want to peel the outside, cut the ends off, and then it'll be like almost bleach white, almost yellowish white. I think it's worth it. And you want to get them now they're in season. They're crisp, like crunchy, like carrots. And then towards the end of the season, they'll be like flimsy, and those are old. So
Okay.
avoid the flimsy ones. I've actually like I've reconstituted them or brought them back to life when they were a little bit soft. But you don't want to buy them when they're already on their way out.
Okay. And can you peel them and then eat them like I do carrots, or not?
Yeah, you can eat them like you do carrots. They're more fibrous than carrots are. And you'll notice that. But you know, cooking them with potato or cooking them could be cool. Like you can make a puree parsnip and regular potato soup, you know, like potato leek soup, but do some parsnips, maybe like a quarter to a third parsnips to the rest potato, or roast the parsnips with fennel and red onion and what's the other one I was thinking would be good? I mean, carrots, parsnips, fennel, and red onion. That would be delish. Maybe some sweet potato to add like a carbohydrate with fiber and energy on a bed of grains with a poached egg. There you have it. Quick and
Okay, got
delish.
it. So for the first time, it would be better to have it cooked than to have it raw for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, cut it up and taste it and be like, oh, okay. And then you can cook it.
Okay.
It's nothing like tofu. Nothing.
No, I would think it wouldn't be. I was mixing it up with turnip greens because see, I have used turnip greens, the green part, but on the bottom they have those turnips. I'm not going there. So that's what I was thinking you were talking about.
But the baby turnips roasted are delicious. Has anybody had baby turnips roasted? They're amazing. Like you just cut them in half and roast them with your other friends that you like to roast. And then you could saute the greens separately. So the baby turnips just taste like radishes to me when they're cooked. Where the big hearty, like those hearty turnips that are a little bit bigger and more sour, I think is one of the words that you brought up.
Yeah.
Those ones are a little bit more complex, if I may, like rutabagas.
You know, I'm allergic to potato. So I've had to like, I will, when I really want the mashed potatoes, because I really like those, I will mix them with the turnip and cauliflower and mash it up together. So the turnip kind of like adds a little kick to it, almost like horseradish would. You know, if you like horseradish, that's kind of how I treat that. Because it's like, you know, I love my potatoes and I can't have them or I shouldn't have them. I won't lie, I cheat sometimes. But when I'm doing it the right way, I do mix it with cauliflower because you know how you crush out cauliflower, it's just the same as, it gives you that same texture. And then someone got me to add the turnip, just a little bit of it to just pop up the flavor. So that's how I see it. I see it more as like an additional flavoring than by itself.
Okay.
Right, and so I wouldn't necessarily recommend making 100% parsnip soup with onions or whatever, because it actually might be too much parsnip. That's why having potato or turnip or whatever would be good. And also, or carrots and celery. And make like chicken soup with parsnips, you know, instead of some of the carrots. I think that would be a good way to have parsnips for the first time. Because it's something familiar. What was I going to say about, oh, the mashed cauliflower in some way instead of potato is just such a huge, awesome way to have a mashed white food as like a substitute for mashed potatoes. It's so good. Just with garlic, olive oil, smash it up, and it's just super quick. No need to pull out the food processor or anything. Just smash it with a potato smasher and you're good to go. And you could add turnips, and I think that's a really great strategy. Or horseradish to your, I haven't added horseradish to cauliflower, smashed cauliflower, but that would be yummers.
I think what I really take away from this class today is hiding food. I never thought about it, you know, hiding something inside where you can still get it, because I struggle with that for the winter. I mean, there's all these vegetables I like in the spring and the summer, and then I look at the winter vegetables and I'm like, I don't want all of that. But at the same time, I'm trying to learn, if I'm gonna eat fresh food, I have to learn to eat in season. So I think that's gonna be the way I have to go for the summer, because I have just so small a list. You know, when I did my inventory list, my list of vegetables that I like that are in season in the winter is really low. I mean, I end up eating mostly frozen vegetables because I get sick of broccoli and asparagus. And it's like, but everything else I just don't like. So I see what you're saying. I'm gonna have to figure out how to hide it in there so that I can tolerate it.
Absolutely. I mean, using frozen vegetables or frozen food in general, buying more of something and freezing half of it is just, it's like a time management thing, and letting go of the notion of needing to eat like fresh vegetables all the time, and making sure you have variety and making it so that you can eat healthy more often and utilize, you know, some of the modern conveniences of frozen broccoli or frozen beets. I know at Rainbow they have frozen beets and sweet potato already diced for you, green beans. Some of the stuff is like I'll pull it out of the freezer, put it in the refrigerator, and then deal with it, or take a quarter of it out and then put it in the refrigerator to defrost the next day in my refrigerator, or just defrost it on a sheet pan in the oven without any oil. And then once it's warm and all the water is evaporated, then toss it with a little bit of olive oil to then roast and caramelize.
Okay.
Yeah, like green beans are a great one to dry out and eliminate all the water, and then add a little bit of olive oil to roast the green beans in the oven.
Oh,
Because
okay.
sometimes, like asparagus and green beans, specifically when they're frozen, they tend to be a little bit waterlogged.
Yeah.
But there's a way to work through that challenge, which is roasting at a lower temperature, getting rid of the water, and then adding a little bit of oil.
Oh, okay. See, that's why I needed to be in this class. Did not know that. Did not know that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I was like determined to figure out how to encourage people to use different frozen vegetables, because it's so limited. If you're like, oh, well, the fresh green beans are not worthy of my dollar, and you're like, I want to experiment, or if I want to experiment with a green bean recipe, because green beans are supposed to be in season, and they're also like a Thanksgiving meal. So then I got some frozen green beans, and I was like, how can I figure out to actually use these when I know they're kind of waterlogged? And you know, the chopped up green beans at Whole Foods, they're like cut in little bite-sized pieces. Those ones are actually pretty good. Or the small Haricot Vert green beans are good. So it's like the brand, the company, the actual vegetable that was packaged, like it's just like a long run-on sentence. I actually define myself as a run-on sentence.
Run on with your bad self.
But cool. Any last words for this awesome session? Anybody? Rita, Sharon, Kathy, Chris? No?
Well, Sakani, I always pick up on what you've already talked about, but I think I've become an expert at hiding foods, hiding vegetables. And for me, every morning I have either spinach or kale, and because I have a smoothie every single morning, and well, there occasionally I miss a day, but I can't even taste it, right? Because I always put like perhaps half a banana and a few frozen strawberries, some ice, milk, kale, hemp seeds or chia seeds, and some yogurt, and maybe a little milk. And it turns green, and the first time it turned green, I was like, oh God, I'm not gonna like this, but it's always so very delicious. And regarding vegetables of the season, I was at a restaurant last night in San Francisco, and I chose very wisely. There was this vegan, well, it didn't say this is a vegan dish, but that's exactly what it was. It was a delicata squash that was stuffed, and surrounding it were these wonderful chickpeas and some other delicious, spices and flavors going on. And and then I had like a fish stew, but that by far was the best dish. It was absolutely excellent. I'm going to try to recreate that myself. I've never thought about ordering, delicata squash at a restaurant. So I didn't order the pork chop, that wasn't calling my name, but just the fact that there are so many just beautiful vegetables of the season that I never even delved into before are kind of part of my repertoire now when I go out, when I go out to eat. And it's about the choices. And I know that whatever I choose is going to be not only healthy, but just very, very tasty. So, I actually am going to do some meal planning tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can go find some more vegetables of the season and just really, really enjoy.
Awesome. Way to try new dishes.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea.
Did you take a picture of your restaurant meal?
No, I didn't. I actually thought about it, but we couldn't wait. So we delved into it. Or the person I was with, she was like, let's just eat. So I didn't take a photo, but I should have, because it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I was just thinking it'd be cool.
But if you guys want to go, those of you in San Francisco, it's Firefly Restaurant in Noe Valley.
Firefly.
Yeah, excellent.
The place has been around for a while.
Yes, it has. I used, when I lived in Noe Valley, that was one of the restaurants that I used to always go to. Really good.
Nice. I actually interviewed for a job there a while back. It was after the 1990s.com shenanigans, and they had all these stories about the successes during that time, because people just wanted to order whatever, give me the truffle, blah, blah, blah. And but it was after that. And the kitchen, hopefully the kitchen has been renovated since that interview. I couldn't stop thinking there was this pipe on the ground in the kitchen that I had to walk over the whole time in the kitchen. Like I had to mentally just constantly like step over this pipe or else I might trip over it. And I was like, there's no way I can work in this kitchen with this pipe here. The pipe was the deal breaker. So next time you go back, you should ask if they still have that pipe they have to walk over. Hopefully they were required to renovate.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there was some renovation that went on a while ago.
Okay. Okay.
You
I
know,
mean, it was
that work.
it was around 2001, I think, that I had the interview.
Yeah, I think since then, I think that it's still owned by the same people, the same couple who purchased it back in the 90s, I think. But it's really good. I mean, they do some amazing things with food.
Awesome. So do you. So do you. That was, of course, space. Awesome.
I don't do too bad in the kitchen.
Cheers to that. And all of you have made so many changes to your eating and your cooking. And I look forward to seeing everybody here next week, same time, same place. We'll bring all these concepts together. Awesome. Great to see you all. And let's enjoy this wonderful Saturday. We're a little overcast here in the Richmond, but hopefully some of you guys can see some sun for me. Okay.
Right.
Always a pleasure.
What's a pleasure.
Take care.
Yep.
Bye.